Hello, everybody. How are you? My name is Dr. Trishala Punjabi, and I'm a subject matter expert at GMAT. And I just want to share you that I was right where you guys were just a little while ago. I took my GMAT around like 2, 3 months ago, and I scored a 715 with a DI84 and a V90. And when I actually took my first raw mock, first diagnostic mock, at that time my score was a 395. I had scored I think 10 percentile in DI. So my DI score was absolutely horrible. And I actually built up all the way. I built up my entire DI, I built up my quant, I built up my verbal, and I got to 715. And I'm sharing this with you today because I know that when you get a first diagnostic mock score at that time, it can be very, it can feel very demotivating. And I want to share with you guys that there's absolutely no reason to be demotivated. If I can go from like a 10 to like a 99 percentile, so can you guys. And today I'm going to show you the exact methodology that I used to get there. And as I'm sharing, like while I'm sharing, I do want to hear from you guys as well. One thing is that if you're gonna watch this like a Netflix session, you're just gonna get as much value as you'll get out of a Netflix session, which is basically nothing. But if you actually participate, I can promise you that we can make this 1.5 hours that we are spending together very, very valuable. So please, please, please do comment, do be very, very active. So I want to know, what are the most common problems you guys face when you talk about DI? The most common issues you guys have? Yeah. Just a second. Okay. All right. Is my screen visible? There's some issue, I guess. Just give me a second. Can you guys see my screen clearly? Okay, Naman, not able to absorb all of the information. Great. Thank you so much for sharing. We will figure it out. Why can't I share just... Oh, okay. I see the issue. Sorry, guys, for the tech problem. I am a doctor. We are notoriously bad at tech. Let me figure this out. So not able to absorb all of the information. If you try to do DS well, you mess up in MSRTP. Huh. Very interesting. How does that happen? How does doing well in DI mess that up? Timing issue. Yeah, so one thing, like while I'm figuring out how to share my screen, if any of you are having timing issues, there is a really interesting concept of takt time, TAKT, takt time. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, wherein like when you are doing practice, so first of all, you need to do untimed practice. That is the number one thing. You, first of all, before DI, so this is the entire way it should go, right? You need to finish your quant and verbal first. Your entire basics of quant and verbal need to be very, very strong. The entirety of DI is based on a process, but the skill, the raw ingredients, they come from quant and verbal. After doing that, you first need to start DI untimed, and you need to hit these accuracy metrics of 80% in medium and 60% in hard. Once you're hitting those accuracy metrics, then you need to do timed sets. So the way that you do it is not all at once, not everything all at once, because that way your brain is not going to get time to process. What you need to do is, let's say that you are done with a small part of, let's say, verbal TPA. Then just do time sets of only verbal TPA. And once you get a good accuracy there, only in verbal TPA, then move on to the others. And then do mixed time sets. And when you are doing these time sets in these micro topics like verbal TPA, in let's say MSR non math, at that time I want you to calculate that for every correct question, how much time you are taking. So when you are actually doing your sectional mocks, or when you are giving your when you are taking your actual mock, at that point of time, you know that, okay, listen, I can do DS in like 1.5 minutes correctly. So that half a minute of time saved, I can put it in, let's say, like a difficult TP, or I can put it in a difficult MSR. So I know I give you guys a lot of information here, but essentially what you need to figure out in timing issue is at what I'll share a couple of articles as well. Like, I think if I can, after this, I'll put it in the comments, and that will really, really help with the timing. Great, but awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. If there's any other issues, please do share, and then we will begin this session. Mm-mm. Verbal TPA. Verbal, I think this session is going to be like a little bit verbal heavy. So if any of you are struggling in anything in verbal, I think this is going to be very helpful to you guys. Okay. All right. So let's get started. The first question is this. I'm going to give you guys 2 minutes. As soon as you're done, drop your answer in the comments. Okay? 2 minutes. Let's go. I'll get to your question, Naman. We'll just, as long as I get a couple of replies, I'll get your question. Okay, guys, 1 more minute. Please drop your answers. Okay, we've started getting some answers. Last 10 seconds, and then I'll move on. Okay, so I have gotten three very different replies. We have one C and A and A, C and B. Oh, right, sorry. Before I go into that, I'm going to address two doubts that we have here. Edwin says that we have pacing issues and C and B. Okay, got it. Vidhat 3. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. C and B. Okay. Interesting. Very, very interesting answers I'm getting. All right. Quickly, I'm going to address the doubts, and then we are going to go into the question. When to drop the question? Yeah, so I think it's a really important skill, especially in DI. It's about picking your battles, to know which question to spend time on and which question not to spend time on, and when you are supposed to, leave a question. You have to sometimes lose a battle to win the war, and that's the point. You don't score like a 99 percentile or 100 percentile by getting every single question right. You do it by knowing which question to attempt and which question not to, and to drop the question, to figure out when exactly you need to drop the question. You need to have an idea of your timed accuracy metric in that question. So, for example, if I know that to get an MSR correct, I am taking exactly 2.5 minutes to get one MSR question correct, right? And this is just an example. First of all, how did I find out? I tracked that those accuracy metrics. So if I know that I'm spending 2.5 minutes, right, and then if I'm attempting the question and it has been, let's say, 2 minutes, and it's been, let's say, 2 minutes, and I know that I'm not close to the answer. So after 2.5 minutes, I need to make an executive decision that, okay, you know what? How close am I? I'm going to give 30 seconds, and if I cannot do it in more than 30 seconds, I'm going to move on. So you need to basically know yourself, and you need to, like, do a lot of practice in mocks to know that, okay, this is when I need to skip. And you need to have that mindset that GMAT is not going to reward you for getting every single question correct. They're going to reward you for getting the questions correct that you do know, because you cannot afford to miss out on questions you do know just because you got emotionally attached to one question. Emotional attachment is always bad on the GMAT. Okay, so now let us look at your answers. A lot of people chose C. Sahil, one person chose A. Okay, and then we have like a mix of A's and B's. Perfect. So let us look at, how do we do this in a very structured way? The entire process of approaching a question like this. So in graph, what I like to do is that as I'm reading it, I want to relate it to the graph. And I'm not going to look at the option first. I'm not going to look at the question statement first. I'm going to read and I'm going to internalize the entire information. Okay. So let's start. So, based on a study of a 10,000 person sample of the adult population in country Y, the unbroken curve on the graph plots an association. Okay, so the thing is that in DI, and I think in a lot of GMAT, there's going to be like long like walls of information. There's going to be just so much information crammed into it, so that if you try to like read the entire thing without pausing and just like it's not going to work out. Like what's going to happen, like your brain cannot process so much information at the same time. So what you need to do, you need to do something called strategic pausing. I don't know if you guys are doing that right now or not, but I would really recommend this method. It's basically you break down the entire chunk, that wall of information, into small, small, small bits of information that your brain can process. Even if you read this in like 10 seconds, if you cannot solve it correctly, there's no point, right? So you need to essentially know that you've understood the data set. All right, so let me pause here. So based on a study of 10,000 person, the unbroken curve of orthograph. So when it says unbroken curve, my attention goes here that, okay, they are talking about the black line here. All right, plots an association between daily consumption of various amounts of beverage Z. Okay, so it's an association. So I'm coordinating it with the graph. It says 100 ml glasses of beverage C consumed per day. That is our x-axis. Okay, wonderful. And the relative risk of contracting disease X com- compared to the risk with no consumption of beverage C, indicated by 1. So again, this is very loaded. But let us look at what this means. It says relative risk. So whenever you read the word relative risk or relative anything, it means that there is some baseline. And whatever assumption, whatever, sorry, not assumption, whatever value that's going to come up of something, that is going to be relative to that baseline. So if I look here, so on the y-axis, we have the relative risk. Okay, so there is the baseline relative risk, which is basically at 1. And then it says that the x-axis, the essentially the black line, that has the like at what 100 ml of glass, what relative risk is there. So before I go forward, I'm going to look at what this means, right? So I'm just going to pick one point, and this is very, 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 very important in graphs. Whenever you're solving a graph question, do this, and it's going to ensure that you got it. Okay, I'm glad, Sahil, you did that. Awesome, wonderful. Okay, all right. So I'm not going to tell you the real answer. You guys are gonna have to wait. All right. So when I look at this, so this has, let us say, what does this mean? What does this point mean? This means that, okay, let us say when I'm having 4 glasses at that point of time, how much is my relative risk? It's approximately could be between like around like 0.88, 0.89, right? So that means that, okay, when I'm having four glasses, my relative risk is 0.89. Let us say when I'm having, 10.5 glasses, at that time, my relative risk is 1. So what does this mean? So when, I'm not even looking at the question statement right now, by the way. This means that let us say that when is this part, my relative risk is the lowest when it is around at 5-ish range, right? Because relative risk is around at that this point of time, it's around 0.88, 0.89. That is much lower, right? So when I'm looking at this graph, that is what this means. Let's say if I was having one glass per day, at that time, what's my relative risk? Okay, that's 0.95. And what does this graph what does this mean? Like if I were to explain this graph to someone who was studying in like 8th grade, what would I tell them? I would tell them, and again, whenever you're confused in RC, in DI, in anything, just imagine you're talking to an 8th grader, okay, and explain that to them. And if you can explain that to them, it means you've got the graph, you have owned the data set, you've got the concept. All right. So this means that when I'm not having, any kind of glass, at that time, I have a normal baseline one risk. Okay. But let's say if I start having glasses, I'm having one, two, three, four glasses. So as I'm having more glasses, my risk is reducing. It reduces up until a certain point. It reduces up until I'm having four, five, six glasses. But then if I have more glasses than that, then my risk will increase. Then my risk will increase more and more and more. And at around 10 glasses or so, it'll be like the same baseline risk where it's not making a difference whether I'm having zero glass or whether I'm having 11 glasses. All right. So and then after that, if I look at this trend line, after that, if I get, 12, 13, 14, 15 classes, my risk of contracting the disease is going to increase. So all of this I inferred. And the inference is so important because I actually need to know what I'm looking at. If I don't know the entire data, how am I going to like even solve the question, right? That's why this is just incredibly important. All right. So I'm just going to look at comment. Okay, this is not a hard level question. Mink protocol. I'm glad that you think that it's not a hard level question, but if you look at like a lot of people have gotten this question wrong. And if you think it's not a hard level question, it means that your concepts are really strong. So that's great. All right. So for the entire adult population of country Y, the relative risk values could be because of sampling error higher or lower than for the 1000 sample study. So what does this line mean? What does it say? It says that, okay, it's not like a very hard and fast rule. There is some sort of sampling error. Okay, see the line above and the line below. That kind of shows the range of sampling error that there could be. All right. Thus, the two broken lines show the estimates of how high or low they can be. Okay, now that we have completely understood this, we can go on to the question. From the drop-down menu, select the option that creates the statement that is most strongly supported by the information provided. Now, this is going to be very, very important. Compared to the risk of with no consumption of beverage Z, the reduction in relative risk of contracting disease Z, X for adults of country Y is X, whatever. How many of you read this line, reduction in relative risk? If you're watching this later on, please pause and think if you read this or not. So, what is this question asking? It's not asking when is the risk greatest or when is the risk lowest. It is asking when is the reduction in relative risk greatest. So what does that mean? It means that when is this yeah. So when is this either like the greatest, or when is it like, let's say, the least, right? And because we have already done this analysis, because we've already inferred from the data set that the relative risk is lowest at this point of time, and like this is like the basically like the minimum point in the curve, right? Okay, great. Thank you so much for being honest, Rajat. And like that is like, usually you get everything correct. You're doing everything right. You're doing owning the data set. You're doing everything perfectly. You miss one word and your entire question is wrong. And your score tanks. So it is extremely important. Like if there's one thing that you need to do is read each and every single word properly. All right. So here we know when is the reduction of risk greatest. It is what? It could be the greatest, unchanged, or least, but we know for a fact right now, we've already done that analysis that the reduction is greatest in what range. Now, if we look at this, it's given 1, 2, 3, 4 to 6, 7 to 8. Now, if we are analyzing the ranges, give me a minute. Yeah, we're analyzing the ranges 1 to 3. It's this much. Then we have 4 to 6. Again, this is here. And then we have 7 to 8. Okay, 7 to 8. It's here. So we already know that the reduction in relative risk, like the minimum point where the reduction is greatest is over here between 4 to 6. So our answer here is A and B. Awesome, great. Skimming text is the mistake. I'm so glad that you guys are able to self-diagnose, because that's diagnosis is the beginning of treatment. Now that you know that you're skimming over text and you're making a mistake, every single question that you do from now on, you're going to make sure that you do not make this mistake. So I'm really, really glad you guys got on that. Great. So I think somebody was asking the question level, right? Yeah. So on GMAT Club, it's like a 95% hard question with 41% people got it correct, and it took so much time. But honestly, I mean, I took a lot of time in explaining. That's on me. But if you would have actually just, looked at that chart and internalized the chart, it literally took like 30 seconds to solve the question. You'd already because the question was a direct inference question from the chart, right? So yeah, so the more time you spend here, the less time you will need to spend here. The more time you spend here, the greater accuracy here. Okay, so this is what I want you guys to do. All right, so own the dataset approach, and let's go over for this question. You have 2 minutes. As soon as you're done, please drop your answer in the chat box. Okay, we've started getting the answers. 30 seconds, guys. Last 30 seconds. Okay, so we've gotten quite a few answers. Ah, you got all of you got it right. Awesome. Okay, so then in that case, I'll just quickly go over this question. All right. So I guess you guys have like a really strong set theory. Okay. So this diagram shows a relationship between three groups of stockholders in company HQS and the number of stockholders in each group. All right. So this has basically, three groups of people. The first group P consists of stockholders who receive a paper copy of the annual report. So this is essentially the largest group, 3,100 members. They're receiving the paper copy. All right. The group M consists of majority stockholders. All right, so this is obviously it's a majority stockholders, so it's a small group, so it has only 12 members. Group T consists of stockholders who are traders. So this one is stockholders who are traders, M, and T. Okay, so exactly eight stockholders belong to all three groups. So this little thing here, that is eight, which are belonging to all three of the groups. It is possible that one of the more regions of the diagrams do not contain any members. All right, so we know what that means. Any of these could be zero. Okay, so select from the drop-down menu the option that contains the most accurate statement. So the way to look at this, it's as that if all majority stockholders receive paper reports. So as soon as you read this, your brain should instantly go into visualizing that information in the Venn diagram. So what does it mean that all majority stockholders are receiving paper reports? So this means that they are going to be, let me just make it a bit better. So they are going to be in this region, because this entire thing is all the majority stockholders who are receiving paper reports, right? So, and we know that total there are 12 members here, and out of that, 8 are here. So, there are 4 members here, and this has 0 members. So then dash is the maximum number of traders who could receive paper reports. So again, this has only 8 and 4. This has only 12 members. This has 3,100 members. So it has a lot of bandwidth. So even if all 245 are here and this is 0, because this group has so many members, it can easily accommodate it. Right. So 245, actually, yeah, the entire thing total is going to be 245. They are going to be the maximum number of traders who could receive the paper reports. All right. Now going to the second one. Second, again, I'm like glossing over this through this because you guys are very smart. Okay. If exactly 10 majority stockholders receive paper reports. So what does this mean? We are already here. This is already at an 8. If exactly 10 of them are receiving paper reports, so which means the intersection of M and P, this is 10. So that means that this is 2 and this total is 12. So this, which means that either, oh, sorry. Yeah, either this is 2 or this is 2. Okay. And then we are asked then the maximum number of traders who could also be majority stockholders. So essentially, what we are supposed to figure out is this area, maximum number of traders who also could be stockholders. And because we know the principle of maxima minima, that if I want to maximize this, I need to minimize this. So in that case, this will be 0, this will be 2. So we have 8 and 2, we have total of 10. So the answer here is 10. And surprisingly, all of you got it correct, because its actual accuracy is a little bit lower than that. It is like a 34% accuracy question, but this is great. If you guys have any doubts, ask. Otherwise, I'll move on to the next question. And again, like, if you are comfortable with Venn diagrams, I think this question will be very easy for you. You need to know the principles of maxima minima here. You need to know the principles of, Venn diagram. You need to basically figure out when this information is given, how you're visualizing it into the Venn diagram. Okay. Great. All right, now we are going to go for an MSR question. You'll have to read it turn by turn because I don't have all three in the same place. So just let me know once you're just done reading like every part of it, or I'll figure something out. Wait. Start reading this, guys, please. And if you cannot um read it, or if you want to zoom in or something, let me know. I'll do that. I'm doing this, but start solving, guys, okay? We should be fine now. Great. Let me know once you're done. And since it's MSR, I'm going to give you guys like a good 3 minutes here. Edwin, the approach we recommend is to read it properly, read it completely nicely, word by word, so that you don't make any mistakes due to skimming. And this is a very difficult question. So, that's why I'm giving you guys extra time as well. Read it very nicely. Okay, I've started getting some responses, but last 30 seconds. Okay. All right, so we've got a lot of mixed responses. We have NNN, NYN. I I think someone wrote N underscore, and I don't know what that means. And then we have NNY. Okay, let us dive in. All right. So, what is this question saying? First of all, again, like as I already mentioned, it is really important to read each and every single line absolutely perfectly, absolutely carefully, and only then answer the question. Especially in case of some verbal heavy MSRs, because you have to draw a lot of inferences there. All right. So let us have a look at this question. So what is happening here? So there is this first email. So this is the first tab. And this first tab, it's saying that yesterday was the deadline for a receipt of completed surveys from doctors who were invited to participate in the MPPS survey, whatever. Okay. So basically, like yesterday was there some deadline for receiving surveys. Did we get enough returns from this original group of invitees to get reliable statistics? Do we need to invite additional participants? So, what is happening here? Someone is asking somebody else that, okay, did we get enough returns, or do we need more participants? That is the question that is being asked. Now, if we look at the reply, so here we are getting more context as to what actually is happening. Are we getting NNY and YY? Interesting responses. Okay, so email 2 is the email from the project coordinator in response to the administrator's email. So basically, email 1, it was sent by the admin to the project coordinator, PC, and here it's like the project coordinator saying something. All right. So he's saying that altogether we got exactly 350 survey completions. We need at least 700 and we're hoping for even more. So we plan to invite a second group to participate. So what is happening here is that the question was asked that, okay, did we get enough returns? Do we need additional? It's like, we got 350, we need 700. So essentially, you kind of need approximately double or more. Okay. And how are they going to achieve that? That they're going to basically invite a second group of people, and those second group of people are going to help them achieve that. Okay. Now, both the results from the first group and the other research indicates that this type of survey and this type of participants, there's approximately a 40% probability that any given invitee will submit the completed survey in the time that they will allow. Before reading the bracket, let's take a pause here. Let us employ strategic pausing, and let us see what this means. So essentially, what can you infer out of this? If you were to draw an inference out of this one statement, what could you draw? What does this mean? What it meant to me when I was reading it is that basically that, let us say I needed X number of people to get to 350. Now I want 700. So I will need approximately 2x, I'll need approximately X more number of people. Right? Does that make sense? Can you guys follow what exactly I did here? That if let's say that, I got like 350 responses. Yeah, I'll get to that advantage. Don't worry. Yeah, just give me a minute. Let me get now done with this question. So let's say with 350 responses, I needed X people for 350 more responses because the probability is equal. That's what this says, right? There's a 40% probability that any given invitee will submit the thing in the time that will allow. So the probability was equal for both of them. So if I had X number of people who got me 300 responses, I will need X more to get me, 350 responses. I'll need X more to give me 350 more responses, making a total of 700 responses. Okay. So, but there's a caveat here, right? Obviously, that doesn't mean that if we invited 1000, we'd necessarily get at least 400. So, we need to think in terms of the risk of getting too few returns or exceeding the budget. So, this is basically a caveat that, okay, just because you're inviting them, just because it says that there is a 40% probability, it's not hard and fast that definitely 400 people will. There can be more, there can be less. Okay. So, that's what it entirely means. And then it says that all of the participants who submitted their surveys by the deadline will get the $50 payment that we promised. So, okay, so this is a very useful tip here. If you are going, even especially when you're looking at verbal type MSR questions, or some, let's say, even verbal CR questions, or DI questions that do have verbal, but there are numbers. What are the numbers that we had? We have 350 survey participants. We have 700 survey participants. We have 700 people that we need, 700 responses that we need. Then we have like 40% probability, and then we have $50 payment. When they're giving these numbers, we need to do some basic back of the napkin kind of calculations, because those are going to be the keys to essentially solving that question. We cannot just not calculate. We have to have some calculation, because that calculation is going to be necessary in future inferences. Yeah. So how many of you calculated when you, I'm just going to show you the calculation, but how many of you made calculations when you were solving this? Or did you just treat it as pure verbal and not calculate? Either ways is fine. It's a yes, it's great. No one's gonna, you know, admonish you or whatever. Just a second. Why am I not able to? Just give me a second, guys. I'm not able to get my drawing on. Okay, done. Pure verbal. Okay, all right. Pure verbal, pure verbal. Okay, okay. Thank you so much for sharing. Now, I'll tell you why it is that we need to calculate. Just to let you know, my quant was a little bit, yes, very good, Arushi. So, my quant was like a little bit weak. So, I'm going to be doing calculations in a very fifth grade way, but please bear with me. Wait a minute. Okay, I made a mistake. Yeah, so essentially this, it's 35 into 5, 25, 17.5. Okay, so $17,500. That much is something that has already been spent. Okay, how? Because we had 350 responses, and we were giving $50 to everybody. If my calculation is incorrect, please correct me, guys. Okay, now, then he's asking what is the total budget? That is what the project coordinator is asking the administrator. Now, let's look at what the administrator is replying. The budget we allocated for compensation to those who complete is $45,000. So, again, we have $45,000, which is the allocated budget. Out of that, we have spent approximately 17,500. Let us make it easy. Let us assume that we spent around 20,000. We have 45,000. So we have approximately a little bit more than 25,000, approximately 27.5 thousand. That is the budget that we have remaining. So we have buffer. It is not that our budget is over in the first go. What is the inference that I drew here? That in the first round, we spent some money, but that money wasn't even half of the money that was allocated. We have a very comfortable buffer for the next round of people. And how many replies we need exactly 350 more replies. We don't need like a crazy high number of replies. So what this entire thing is telling me is that we have enough buffer, that if we invite the same number of people again, it is very much possible that we will comfortably be able to fit them in, and we'll be able to execute the project. That is what this entire thing is saying. So, we will honor the commitment to pay $50 to each participant in the second group as well as the first who completes and submits it by the deadline. We specify when we invite them to participate. However, we will need to try not to exceed the total amount that is budgeted for this purpose. That is what it says. Okay, now, um, if I'm telling you, okay, oh, sorry. If I'm telling you that, okay, I'm going to go out to have dinner tonight, I'm going to try not to eat dessert. Does that mean that I'm going to eat dessert or no? Just tell me in the comments while I drop this off. Oh, I get this. Yeah. If I'm telling that I'm going to go have dinner and I'm going to try not to eat dessert, does that mean that, you know, I'm not going to eat dessert at all? Or is there some possibility of me eating dessert? Tell me. Maybe or maybe not. Yes, absolutely. If I was of that thing that I will not eat dessert, I would be very, very clear about it, that I will not eat dessert. But when I'm saying that I am trying not to, I am basically saying that there is some risk of me eating dessert. Now let us look at this question and now let us look at these answer choices. And let us look at the last one because most of you got that incorrect. When the administrator said that he's willing to accept some risk of exceeding the budget, is he willing to accept it or not? Think about the same dessert example. Just because he gave the instruction that we will try not to exceed, it doesn't mean that, listen, in absolutely no way, shape, or form are you not to exceed it. He was not that firm about it. What does that signify? It signifies that he was willing to accept some risk. So the answer to this is actually yes. Is this clear to everybody? Yes, no, maybe so. Tell me, and then we can move on. It's really, really important that when you're reading it, you really understand what is the meaning behind what that person is saying. You draw those correct inferences. And like when you don't, and when you take it like very much, you know, at at like very, very much face value without drawing inferences, it is more likely to make you're more likely to make mistakes. So that is why it's really important to strategically pause. Like, whenever you're reading that, you're supposed to sit and you're supposed to synthesize that information. Okay. It says when it is a maybe or maybe not, shouldn't be no, because we don't have the definite answer. So the thing is that this option is not saying that, this option itself is a maybe, right? This entire thing, some risk is what? It's a maybe. And what is this option? This option itself is a maybe. If the option said that the administrator is he's okay with exceeding the budget, then it would have been like a question mark that, okay, then we could not draw this inference. But the option itself is saying that he's willing to accept some risk. That is why the maybe and the maybe aligns, and we can draw that inference. And I'm glad you asked this question, Shweta. Great. Now let us go to the first two things. Okay. The administrator is unwilling to invite as many participants in the second group as were invited in the first group. So here we already drew the inference, right? That he wants 350 responses. He had 350 responses. He wants 350 more responses. He also knows that the percentage of people replying are going to be more or less similar. So because of that, he it's a no that he will invite people. He absolutely is willing to invite as many participants in the second group as well. Okay. And I think a lot of you did get this correct. Now, here, let's look at this one. The project coordinator does not expect to be able to meet the goal for numbers of completed surveys received. And here, I got like half and half response. So let us look at, what exactly this is saying. It says that it does not mean that if we invited, we necessarily get 100. So, you know, I think this line is something that confused a lot of people. But if I'm giving you an example, if I'm saying that, there is a 20% chance that it will rain, but I think I should carry an umbrella, just in case. It does not mean I'm not expecting like for a fact that it will rain. I'm not having like that hard and fast expectation. It's just a cautionary measure. Just because I'm cautious that, okay, you know what, it might rain and hence I might carry an umbrella. It does not mean that for a fact I think that it is definitely going to rain or I'm expecting it to rain for sure. So when this guy is saying the project coordinator does not expect to be able to meet the goal, it is actually incorrect because we don't know, like, it or everything else that he has said. If we look at the numbers, he needs 350. He already has 350. We have lot of extra budget. We have lot of extra bandwidth. Everything that he has said, all the numbers, it shows that there is a very good chance that you will actually meet. But just because somebody is cautious doesn't mean, okay, I'm sorry, I forgot the spelling. It doesn't mean that they are pessimistic. Does that make sense? Just because I'm cautious that, it might rain and hence I should carry an umbrella. It doesn't mean that I'm like, what, oh my God, it is definitely going to rain. I'm not gonna, I cannot expect to be dry, right? So that's why it's really important to like understand the tone of what is happening here. So I hope that this was clear to everybody. If you have any questions, let me know. And if you learned something from this MSR and whatever we discussed so far, because I think we're halfway through, then please drop it in the comments. And after this, we are going to be starting with tables. Quick, guys. Questions, comments, learnings, anything? Okay. Alrighty then. We can just move on. So we're starting with the table analysis questions. I'll share. Second was, yeah. Second was a no. It was a no, no, yes. Because just that guy's being cautious. He's not being pessimistic. This entire thing is saying that he's being pessimistic. Oh, yes. Sorry. I completely forgot. Yeah. I'm going to address your doubt. You're saying that when solving and getting correct answers to some questions, the kind of slackness comes up, which leads to loss of time. When you mean slackness, like what exactly do you mean? Do you mean fatigue? Do you mean, time? Do you mean you get tired? Do you mean you get bored? Exactly what do you mean by slackness? Or like, do you mean like you get stuck too much in one question? Overall, like, like a good rule of thumb, no matter which one of these it is, overall, a good rule of thumb is that what I used to follow, that like, if I am, let's say, like I used to follow the multiplied by two rule. I mean, there's multiple different timing strategies that you can use, but let us say, like, you feel like you have a lot of time and you go easy on the present question. I get you. In one of the mocks, I spent 7 minutes on one TPA question, and like I tanked the rest of the mock, and that's when I realized that, okay, you know what, I need to be more conscious of time. So whenever I am like, looking, let's say like I'm doing the 10th question, it's in the middle. So I know that, okay, I have 11 questions left, and for all of those 11 questions, let us say I'm assuming 2 minutes, right? So 11 into 2, so like that, let's say 22 minutes. So I know that I have 22 minutes left. So I need to make sure that I have some buffer. Like, I need to have 24 minutes left at least. And like if I'm nearing that 22-minute mark, I'll try to hurry up. So, I try to do that. Like, especially if I feel like I've spent a little bit more time on one question, I'll just do that back calculation. That'll be a bit helpful. You approach the part three with same logic as Shweta mentioned. Yeah. Option three is actually the biggest reason that people get this question wrong. I think I have written it somewhere. Yeah, it has a 38% accuracy, which is like very, 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 very low. But yeah, that's the reason. So, some risk, all of those things, they are very RC specific principles. So DI overall is something which kind of borrows from, RC and CR and quant and all of that. So if your, so, it goes both ways. So if your quant and verbal is weak, your DI, you cannot strengthen it over a certain extent. You have to strengthen the fundamentals first. But at the same time, this is very, very important. If your quant is strong and your verbal is strong and your DI is weak, at that point of time, DI is one of your quickest wins. Especially if you're plateauing on DI or something like that, this is very important for you. Because DI, the base that you need for DI, the raw material, the ingredients, the fundamental skills, they are RC skills, they are CR skills, they are quant skills. And if you already have those skills, you should do well on DI. And if you're not doing well, then you just need to make sure that you're following the right process and you're following the entire method of untimed, then timed topic wise, and then mix sets. If you do this well, then your DI score should be at least the minimum of your quant and verbal scores. That's the general principle to follow. You're leaving points on the table if you're not optimizing for that. Okay. All right. Now, yeah, let's go for this one. I'm going to share the link to this table so that you guys can sort along with this. Give me a second. Can I paste? Oh, I cannot paste an attachment. I need to paste a link. Okay. Give me like a minute, guys. Just start reading this up until then. Okay. I have posted the link. Um, you'll have to duplicate the thing and then you'll be able to do it. If you cannot access it, let me know. I'll help you out. And as soon as you're done, let me know like why and we'll start the discussion. Okay, thank you for your answer, Sahil. Start putting down your answers, guys. Last 30 seconds and then we'll move on. This is like a bit of a time hawk question. Okay, so we have two responses yet. Y and Y. All right. Now, let's go. So, if we start looking at this, right? So, Y. Okay, got it. Interesting. Okay, great. So, how many of you had to use a calculator in the third one? Did you like draw inferences or did you do it with a calculator? Y and Y again. Okay. Like in the last one, you can actually do it without a calculator as well. So I'm gonna show that to you. Okay, now let's look at this. According to the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, 43 US states and one US territory experienced bank failures from October 1, 2000 through December 31st, 2011. Okay, so essentially these are multiple years, and this is just showing that, okay, this about 43 US states and one US territory who have experienced bank failures. The 21 other states and territories grouped together experienced less than five bank failures. Okay, so this entire thing, the 21 states and territories, they have each have less than five bank failures. Other than that, all of these, they have more than five. Okay, five or more than five. Sorry, very, very important distinction. All right. Now, for the following statement, select yes or no. Okay. But let us look at, let us look at this data and what we can make sense of in this data before we go ahead. Okay. So what does this say? So if I were to just, take an example. So if I have, let's say, South Carolina, okay, it had nothing in 2000, 2006, 2008, 2009, 2010. It had four failures, 2011, three. So total seven failures. So again, this is another technique that I really love, that when you first get started out, when you are supposed to do anything in table or data, take one data point, see what's happening in that data point so that you get a good understanding of that. Okay. Now, let us look at the questions. Of the individual states listed. Okay, so now what we are going to do, instead of taking the entire thing at the same time, we're going to take it turn by turn, piece by piece. This way, we have the least chances of making mistakes. So this is of the individual states. So let's go back and see what it means by of the individual states. It means that this is not going to be considered. 21 other states and territories, this is something that we are not going to consider. Okay. Of the individual states listed that experienced at least one bank failure in 2008. Okay. So one bank failure in 2008. So all of these are like a no, 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 no. Okay. What we can do is we can actually sort this table out so that we make sure that we are not accidentally looking, accidentally missing out on a constraint. So if we sort this out, let's sort ascending. Okay. Yeah. So we are only going to look at these values. And here we are not going to look at the 21 state value. So we're not going to look at this value. So essentially, these are all the states that we are going to look at. So this is just a way of doing it in a very organized way so that you don't make any mistakes, because such table questions, they're actually easy, but most people make mistakes because they overlook certain things. So this is just to ensure that we are not overlooking anything. All right, and at least 10 bank failures in 2010. So again, let us go here. In 2010, where's 2010? Oh, it's here. All right. So at least 10 bank failures in 2010. So here, so let us look at what are the data sets that we are actually looking at least 10 bank failures. So we're looking at this one. We are not looking at this one because we're supposed to cancel this out. We're looking at this one. We're looking at this one. We're looking at this one. Okay. All right. So at least 10 bank failures in 2010. No more than three states experienced decline in bank failure from 2010 to 2011. So if we look at how many states have declined from 2010 to 2011, this one has declined, this one has declined, this one has declined, this one has not declined. So how many have declined? Three. And what does it say? No more than three have declined. So that is a yes. All of you got it correct. Across the US states and territories that each experienced more than 45 bank failures. So this is, I think, where with Dhatri, I think you made a mistake initially. I'm really glad that you self-corrected. The word each. What does this word each signify? So whenever you are reading each, what is the inference? Let us say that if there are total x and that x becomes x by 3 or whatever. That's not enough. Each individual component of the x, if x has a, b, and c, all three a, b, and c have to be one third. Only then this statement will be satisfied. That is what each means. That's what, each and every word is important. So across the US states and territories that each experience more than 45 bank failures. So again, let me just erase this and make it like a little bit cleaner. So again, whenever you're looking at it, you need to make sure that you know which, how you're sorting it, like which part you're sorting it from. It says each out of, total bank failures, right? So here we are going to look at the total and let's sort that ascending to descending. क्या कर दिया? Give me a second, guys. It's really hard to operate this on the iPad. All right. So out of each who experience more than 45 bank failures. So here we only have three values. This one. So these three, Illinois, Florida, Georgia. We're only supposed to look at these three. Okay. Out of these three, less than a third of all bank failures that occurred during the time frame displayed occurred in 2010. So if we have to draw an inference from this, what does this even mean? What do I mean by when I say this? It means that let us say if I have 99 total 99 individual bank failures. So out of those 99 individual bank failures, less than a third. So 33, so less than 33. So that means 32. So 32 of them occurred during 2010. 32 or less. So if it is 33 or more in any single of the three, in any one of the three, I have total three, right? I have Illinois, Florida, Georgia. In any one of the three, if it is less than a third, sorry, if it is like more than a third, so that means that my statement is wrong. So if I look at this, if I look at where's 2010? Yeah, if I look at this as 16, this went to 50, this is 29, it went to 61, this is 21, it went to 76. Because it says each, I don't need to look at every single data point. As long as I get one data point, which kind of, goes against the principle of the philosophy, whatever, I'm fine. I'm golden. I can move on. So if I look at 1650, 16 threes are 48. So, okay, this is less than a third. This fulfills it. 2961. So 29, we can say it's approximately 30, 32s are 60, and 33s are 90. So it's not a third. So this one is a false. So here we have a no. Okay, this is the second one. Now, the third one. So again, this, in calculation heavy questions like this, when when it's like, really overwhelming that, okay, what will you do? How will you figure out the total number of bank failures? You need to, use certain methods to make it easier for you. So now if we look at this, the total number of bank failures in the 44 US states and territories included in the table grew from 2009 to 2010. Okay. So if I look at this, what will I do? Let me get the bigger numbers down so that I can, focus. And what table am I supposed to look at? It says total, sorry, what column am I supposed to look at? It says total number of bank failures, right? So I need to, and it said it grew from 2009 to 2010. Okay, so I need to look at 2009, 2010 data. So if I go here, and if I'm like, sorting it ascending, okay. So this means like, I can just, have a look at the bigger numbers and the smaller numbers separately. So it's easier for me to essentially do this. And what am I not including? I'm not including the other states. Wait, am I supposed to include? Okay. So here, if I look at this, 14. Okay. So here, if I add this, if I add 2009 and then 2010 data, how can I do this? 2009, it's 14, 17, 21, 25. 7 plus 1, 8, 17. So this is 77. This is 6, 7, 8, 9, 9 plus 9, 18. So this is 78. So here it is more or less equal. Good. We don't have to take care of this. Then let us look at the trend. Let us look at what is happening from 2009 to 2010. And let us look at the big ones. If there's like a 1 or 2 change, let us not have a look at that. Let us look at changes which are above 2. 0 to 4. So this went a plus 4. My 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 2 4 again. This is a 2 2 4 2 1 3 3 3 1 3 4 3 6. This is a plus 3 3 to 11. Okay, so now this is a very big one. 3 to 11. It went like approximately plus 8. 4 to 5 5 1 5 4 6 5 11 12. So if we look at this, if we are basically figuring out that, let us look at the big numbers. If we go and we count every single thing, we are going to spend way too much time, and we are gonna borrow time from other questions that we could have gotten right. But if we are doing this, if we are doing smart calculations by grouping things and by looking at big numbers, we know that overall this is like a net positive, right? And because of that, the answer to this is a yes. I hope this was clear to everybody. Does this make sense? Okay. All right, now let's do this question. I'm ending on a very easy note. This is like much, much easier question compared to what you guys have done. But honestly, you guys have been performing really tremendously. So kudos to you all for that. Okay. I'm putting the link for the question. Hmm. Please do it and then put your answer in the comments. Okay, answers have started rolling in. Last 1 minute or 30 seconds, depending on how fast you guys answer. Quickly, guys, 10 last seconds and then we'll move on. Okay, so we have two answers so far by Fanindra Siddhant and then Sahil, who is Y and Y, Y and we are Y and Y and N, Y. Okay, let's go. Wait, yeah, all right, let's go. Okay, so again, we're going to follow the exact same process that we were following so far, where we're going to look at what the Y and Y again. All right, so we're going to look at what the statement is saying, and then we're going to correlate it with the table. Okay, so it says the table shows the normal and extreme high and low temperatures. So the normal and the normal and maximum amounts of precipitation. Just sorry, guys, wait. Normal maximum but for each month of the year at the same location. So if we look at the table, what is it showing? So for every month, we have the normal daily max, normal daily min, extreme high, extreme low, normal precipitation, and maximum precipitation. So these are all the different columns that we have. Okay, the numbers are rounded, so identical numbers may represent slightly different quantities. Okay. All right. So now let us solve let's do the approach that we were doing earlier, where we look at, like, let's say one single data point. So let's say if I'm looking at May, the daily max was 15.6, daily min was 8.3, extreme was 34.4, lowest it went to 0, precipitation it went 7.6, and max precipitation 20.3. And as I'm reading this, I'm visualizing in my head what it means. Normal daily means, something, it's like a mean of sorts. Extreme is like the range, the above the upper range and like the lower range. Okay, now if I look at the question stem, the 3 months with the greatest normal daily minimum temperatures also have, wait, let's pause here. Before reading this, let us figure out what are the 3 months that have the greatest normal daily minimum temperatures. Let me go to the table. Hmm. Okay, so if I look at if I sort it, yeah. So the 3 months that have the normal, and yeah, we need to make sure that we are sorting the right table. When I was practicing, there's so many times where I got everything right, but I made the mistake that I sorted the wrong table. And because of that, I got the entire question wrong. So I'm supposed to be sorting greatest normal daily minimum temperature. Okay. So am I sorting the greatest normal daily minimum temperature? Yes, I am. All right. So, what are the three ones with the greatest normal daily minimum temperature? It's July, September, August. And I'm going to take these notes: July, September, August. Okay. Now, what is the question saying? Will also have the greatest normal daily maximum temperature. So, let me see who has the greatest normal daily maximum temperature. Let me sort this. Oh, awesome. We have July, August, September, July, August, September. Both of them, they meet, it works. So it's a yes. Perfect. All of you got it correct. Now, the three months with the greatest maximum amounts of precipitation. Now let us go back and let us sort by, yo, wait. Let us sort by greatest maximum amounts of precipitation. So here, this is the column that we're supposed to sort. Okay. Okay. So what are the months with how many months are we supposed to look at? 3 months. Okay. So the greatest maximum amount of precipitation. So the last 3 months, they are going to be November, December, and January. All right. They are the ones that have the greatest maximum amount of precipitation. Now, also have the least extreme high temperatures. So again, we are going to go back and we're going to look at who has the least extreme high. Does it say exactly that? Let us, correlate least extreme high. Okay. So again, which table are we sorting? Extreme high table. And we are we're making sure that it is least. All right. So we'll look at the upper values. So if we look at the, I'm sorry, I deleted it, I guess. Hold on. Yeah. So if we look at this, what are the 3 months with the least extreme high? We have Jan, we have December, and we have March. Are these three meeting these three? Are they the same? No. Jan is the same, correct. December is the same. This one has November, this one has March. They are both different. So it's the answer to this is no. So whoever did yes to this, think about what was missing in the process because of which I'm assuming that it must have been a silly mistake, but what exactly was missing because of which you selected Y. Okay. Now let's look at the last one. The 4 months with the least normal amounts of precipitation. Let's look here. 4 months with the least amount of normal precipitation. Okay, not extreme, least normal amounts of precipitation. Okay, so this is the table that we're supposed to sort. So here, if we just sort it, and what are we supposed to sort? Least or most? Let's look at it again. Least. Okay. It's always better to just cross check multiple times. I'll check that. Don't worry. Okay. So least, and how many are we supposed to check? 4. Okay. So if we look at 1, 2, 3, 4, so what do we have here? We have July, August, June, and September. July, let me just make it like easier to read. Au- mhm. August, June, and September. These are the 4 with the least normal amounts of precipitation. And who has the greatest normal daily minimum temperature? Let's have a look there also. This is the table that we're supposed to sort. Greatest normal daily minimum. We sort it off. Yeah. So here we have June, July, September, August, June, July, September, August. These two match. Yup, these two match. The answer is a yes. So if you look at the methodology in this question, it's actually really, really simple. But because there's a lot of, sorting going on, there's a lot of back and forth, because there's so many columns, that's where, the accuracy for this also, oopsies. Yeah, the accuracy of this also like becomes a little bit lower because of that reason. So, it's really important to be very methodical about which column are you sorting. Is it greatest or least? How many numbers do we need? All of those things. They are very, very important because these are small things, very basic things that can completely tank your score. All right. Now, Edwin, can you share how close the EGMAT score is in comparison to real GMAT FE? So yeah, EGMAT definitely does come quite close. But in between, in any kind of mock that you take, there's going to be a 30 to 40 point variance. So you're gonna have to account for that variance. So it's better to take like multiple mocks and do take the official mocks. Your official mocks before you, officially go for your exams. And I think we do have some time. So if any of you have any other questions related to strategy, you're taking the GMAT soon, any questions at all in general with respect to DI, with respect to last minute prep, whatever it is, do let me know. I can help you out with that. And if you don't have any questions, um, Do let me know what were the learnings from your session. If you liked the session, if there's anything that you're going to take away, just please, yeah, drop that. Okay, I don't think there's anything. All right, guys. So thank you so much to all of you who participated, who answered questions. Thank you so much for participating. Thank you so much for being here. You feel verbal TP is equivalent to 2 CR questions. Would you suggest skipping it to save time? I would not suggest skipping any question. What I would suggest is that, let us say, if your overall verbal TPA accuracy is very low. So when you're doing time practice and you know that, okay, let's say your GI accuracy is like at a 95% and your TP verbal TP accuracy is like at a 50%, and you know that you're likely to get that wrong in that, so that and then and you know that you're going to take like 3 minutes to solve it. So then it makes sense that at like a 1.5 minute mark, figure out how close you are to solving the question. It's always really important to strategically skip and strategically mark, but at the same time, you don't know if the question that's going to get thrown at you is going to be easy, medium, or hard. So let us say that if you are skipping out on an easy question just because it is a verbal TPA, because the GMAT has an adaptive scoring algorithm, it can be like, oh, you know what, this person doesn't know this very simple question. Now we are going to give only easy and medium questions. So you will not get a chance to demonstrate your skill, and it'll be essentially capped. So it's always better to figure out at what figure out strategic skipping and not skipping right away, and skipping after you have spent some time on it. So not necessarily skipping, but strategic guessing in that case, I guess. And yeah, let's say that your verbal TP accuracy is great, it's like 95%, but your not MSR, but your let us say DS accuracy is like at 20%. So if you skip on verbal TPA where you have a chance to get a higher accuracy, that'll be bad. So you have to be like smart about that. Okay, I'm struggling in DI math related questions. I'm good at MSR, also at managing time in DI. That's awesome, Mika. In DI math related questions, what is your quant percentile like? So the way the road to DI goes through quant and verbal. So like if you're ever struggling in DI, the first thing I want you to check is, let us say, what is your strength in the corresponding skill. Like for example, CR and TPA verbal. If your TPA verbal is not that great, go back to your CR basics. MSR and RC. If your MSR is not that great, go back to RC. DS and I think pure math and quant. If your DS is not good, go back to pure math. So yeah, you're struggling in DI math related questions. What's your quant accuracy? Go to 78. Increase your quant, automatically your DI will go up. You know, you need those basic, really strong foundations in order to do good in DI. Just try to figure out in quant what is the issue. Like, is it algebra? Is it arithmetic? And then you can focus on the specific subtopics that you can get stronger at, and getting stronger in quant will have like a ripple effect. You'll get stronger in quant, you'll get stronger in math DI at the same time, and overall your score will improve. Great. Are there any other questions? There's a little bit of a lag. So if you have any questions, like, it takes me time to, you know, understand. Okay, great. So thank you so much for the session, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being there, for participating. I really, really hope that this session was helpful to you. I really hope that you use the insights, you use the learnings from this session, and you can have. Okay. Alright. You have concept okay, but difficulty understanding and converting the question into actual math. So, in that case, if your real context is a problem, Do it untimed. Thank you so much, Sahil. Do it untimed. Basically, take a real context question, figure out a way to first translate and then do the entire thing. Once you have gained mastery there, then go untimed, and then you will get that. You'll figure it out how to pick it up. All right, guys. Good night. Have a great time. All the very, very best. I hope you guys get fantastic, amazing, brilliant GMAT FE scores, and then you get into the best colleges of your choice. Thank you. Good night, good morning, good evening, wherever you're from. All the best.